The Finance Committee to order on July 17th, 2025. We have 6 members present. We have quorum. Please note this meeting will be in person and is being recorded. Please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Two things before we dive into this agenda. Cody, welcome.
Thank you.
Day 4, you fit us in.
Yes.
Thank you.
No, thank you.
Thank you for joining
Excited
us.
to be here. I figured I had to take advantage of it. You have the next month off, so I wanted to get in and hit the ground running.
Appreciate it. We still have a meeting next week.
Oh,
Yeah, well, I mean,
We do?
We do, because it's one that I
love the look
can't
on
make.
Gary's face.
I thought this was, no, that's fine.
Gary,
That's fine. I know August where we
We
talked
do,
about.
it is on the calendar.
We did, on August, we did talk about.
And in other news, I want to congratulate Gary because the Select Board did a really nice thing on at their meeting on Monday night, complimenting you and giving you the credit that you deserve. So congratulations.
Appreciate that.
They give you any money?
So, first item on the agenda, we have a special guest with us tonight. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. My name is Melissa Haskell. I am the town moderator, and I have the privilege of appointing all the Finance Committee members. So I'm really happy to be here with you tonight, so thank you very much. I had been encouraged by some of the members of the Finance Committee to come and meet with you all, and I thought now was a good time to do that, especially with the change in your reorganization where we have a new chairperson and a new vice chair, and it's a little bit quieter. It's that sort of time of the year for you guys that's a little bit quieter. So I thought that tonight would be a great night for me to meet with you. I thought one of the things that we could do is really just to make sure that we have a shared understanding about the responsibilities of the Finance Committee, and to talk a little bit about the bylaws that authorize or give the Finance Committee its authority. I have a couple of other things too that we can talk about, and we'll get into that. But before I start with those, what I think is the most important thing for me to say tonight, and really the key reason for me to be here, is to thank you all. And that is for the hard work that you do. There's a lot of work here. It's a lot of volunteer hours. It's often thankless. There are people who disagree with you. I appreciate the time and the energy and the effort that you put in. I have no doubt that you are all doing your best to act in the town's best interest. And sometimes people don't agree as to what that path might be. But I know that you are all, invested in this community and seek to do what's best for the town. So I really do want to thank you for the time that you put in and the effort that you put in doing that. And many of you have been here for many years, which is an enormous commitment. So thank you very much. Okay, with that, I handed out a packet and we can kind of get started. And the first sheet in the packet is a copy of our bylaws, specifically as they relate to the Finance Committee. It's chapter 34 of our bylaws. And one of the things that when I've looked at information with regard to finance committees that I found a little bit confusing at first is when you look at Mass General Law, it speaks to the Finance Committee being responsible for the budget, but it does have this phrase that says, unless there are bylaw or charter provisions that say that the Select Board is responsible for the budget. And we are one of those communities that has bylaw and charter provisions that lay out the Finance Committee's role and put the responsibility of the budget on the Select Board. So it's one of the questions I get at town meeting, and I know it was a thread on social media. How come the moderator is not, proposing the Finance Committee's budget? And it is because that the charter requires that the budget is done by the Select Board. So I think the thing that I want to focus on with the bylaws is actually 34-4, powers and duties. And this was, amended as recently as 2011. The duties of the Finance Committee shall be to investigate all articles on the warrant of the annual and special town meetings and have their decision or recommendation or disapproval printed after the articles so investigated on said warrant, to investigate the expenditures of any monies by town officials, and to notify the select board in writing as to whether or not, in their opinion, the expenditure is or was justified. So I think this really outlines the duties of the Finance Committee. And then if you'll turn to the charter, it gives some additional information or duties for the budget, and I'm not gonna read it all to you, but it essentially says that the town administrator puts the budget together and gets input from the select board and from the director of budget and finance. And then if you look at section 5-6, action on the budget, review by finance committee. The finance committee, that's on the first page of the charter information. So the charter, it says section 5-4 at the top, budget message. That's from the charter. So it's, and under section 5-6, action on the budget, A is where it talks about the finance committee. The finance committee shall consider in open meetings the detailed expenditures proposed by each town agency and may confer with representatives of each such agency in connection with their review and consideration. The finance committee may require the town administrator or any other town agency to furnish it with such additional information as it may deem necessary to assist it in its review and consideration of the proposed budget. And then action by town meeting, the finance committee shall file a report containing its recommendations for actions on the proposed operating budget, which report shall be available at least 7 days before the date on which the town meeting acts on the proposed budget. Copies of the report of the finance committee shall be available for distribution to any person requesting the same at the office of the town clerk, the office of the select board, the office of the director of finance, the office of school administration, and at the public library. I obviously haven't read this in a while because I sat on the finance committee and I don't remember us delivering them to the school and to other places, so. And then, the last section talks about, under section 5-7, capital improvements program. The town administrator shall submit a capital improvement program to the select board and to the finance committee at least 150 days before the start of each fiscal year. It shall be based on material prepared by the capital improvement committee, established by bylaw, including a clear, concise summary of its contents, a list of capital improvements proposed to be undertaken during the next ensuing 5 years with supporting information as to the needs of each capital improvement, cost estimates, methods of financing, and recommended time schedules for each improvement, and the estimated annual cost of operating and maintaining each facility and piece of major equipment involved. The information is to be annually revised by the administrator with regard to the capital improvements still pending or in the process of being acquired, improved, or constructed. So I think this is I just wanted you to have it. Sometimes it's good to review, even when you look at this information, sometimes it's good to review it periodically. It's, I was thinking about how I might do a better job of supporting new members of the finance committee, and I think part of that will be making sure that they have copies of this information and that it's a hyperlink. I may also include it in the reappointment letters, just so people can easily access it and be reminded of it, because I think it's easy to not quite remember exactly what the role is. So that was the first piece that I had.
Terry has a question.
I'm sorry, Terry.
It's kind of a comment, but I don't know how it was when you were on the finance committee, but since I've been on, it's pretty much been the director of budget and finance who's put the budget together. And the select board really waits for the finance committee to tell them what they think, because they don't go through the budget in the same way. So this is interesting. And we had a similar discussion when we talked about the potential need for a state of the town presentation. Who would do that? You know, how would that happen? I know Gary has some thoughts on that now, but it can be confusing.
It can be confusing, and you know, everyone wants to, especially when we start to have, you know, times when monies are tighter. You know, everyone is feeling passionate about it and wants to be involved in helping with a solution. So I think it's good to just revisit this periodically, just to remember where we're at. The other thing, I know that you all, I had some questions for you. So I'm hoping tonight's going to be a conversation versus a presentation. I'm not interested in presenting. So I have some questions for you all. I know you guys send out a message to town meeting, and, you know, it covers a lot of material. I have the one from the last town meeting. One of the questions I had was, when you have some things that you think should be considered, you know, was part of the conclusion where you talked about other things that might be considered through proactive planning and strategic initiatives. How are those developed? How do you guys come up with that list of?
We,
Go ahead, Brian.
I guess I've been doing this for about 5.5 years, and I guess over the last 2.5 years, I've been making lists of things that come up during the budget discussions. This year, we had, John Susan and I and Terry actually had one-on-one meetings with department heads and talked, and you there too?
Oh, yeah, school committee.
Oh, right. And you, sorry. Most of us. And we talked in depth about some of these things and what the various department heads wanted to do. And then we also looked at the, I always say 10-year plan, but I'm not sure if that's the name of it, whatever it is.
The master plan? or-
Master plan.
Yeah,
that's
plan
what it
master.
is, yeah. And then looked at also what the department heads, the master plan had to say, and also the long-term planning. We had originally suggested that the 5-year threshold on long-term planning was too short and that they should increase it. And that's how we came up with many of the things that show up on our list. In fact, you have a list, which I don't have with me, I don't think.
The list is in that packet, and
Oh, okay.
everybody has the list.
Yeah.
It's green and
So
white.
those are things that came up that we wanted to explore more that had a financial impact on the town.
Do you talk with I'm sorry.
That's
Did
it.
you want to add to it, Bill?
Actually, just to follow up on Brian's comments, we have liaisons that sit down with the department heads. Matter of fact, I have liaison with the Council on Aging, so we kindly use, like, if you will, Melissa, a bottom-up approach. You know, like in project management, we get like the granular part, and then we kind of like sift it up, and then we talk about in panel, and then we make suggestions on top of that.
Yeah, great. I love the inclusion and the collaboration and partnering with the department heads, because I think that's really important, because the professional staff is really, if we're being honest, they run the town, right? The professional staff is how the town gets run.
We learned a lot more this year by having those, I call them one-on-one, but there were probably 3 to 4 finance committee members that were in each of those meetings with the department head, as well as Gary, of course.
We had them in Gary's office
Yes.
prior to the actual development of the budget.
Right, so we learned a lot, and this was the first year that we took it to that level. And that was very, very informative.
We learned a lot, but in one woman's opinion, I think it opened us up to problems that we wished we could solve, and kind of we're talking about them a little bit, and I'll just say, I think employee morale is not something that we can directly impact. So, I know, with its differences of opinion, which you're not surprised at, I'm sure, but that was one of the things that, like anything, when you learn more about something and you think you can impact it, you would like to, but.
Yep.
Well, my take on that is employee morale does impact finances, in that if you have people that are not motivated to do their jobs, they don't do their jobs very well. And that has a financial impact on the town.
I
Now,
mean,
how
I
you
think most people come to work expecting they're gonna do a good job, and I think that most people come to work trying to do a good job, whether it be a town employee or someone in private industry. And I would not want to perpetuate the myth that town employees aren't working hard, because I think there's,
Nobody's saying that.
Yeah.
No, I think and I'm not sure if I speak for everybody, but I think that the employee morale was tied into the fact that many employees were beginning to leave because of poor benefits, poor pay, and then the cost of then rehiring is pretty steep. So I think that that's how we were tying it in. It may be above and beyond what we should be looking at as a finance committee, but it is something that we should bring up.
And one other point was I know for a fact, because I, for about 3 or 4 years, was DPW liaison. They've had jobs that have been open for,
Yeah.
I don't know, I'm going to say between 3 to 6 years, Gary? jobs at DPW.
Some of those openings.
It's been in the last 4 years.
Yeah, 4 years opening.
Yeah.
And it's because we can't pay enough. I mean, that's what we hear.
Yeah,
But that has an impact too. And that has an impact on services.
yep,
Because
absolutely.
if you got like 12, well, you know what.
Yeah, I'm smiling because it's always that balance, right? It's,
Yeah.
we have so much money, the alternative is like, do we raise, does the town choose to raise taxes? Everybody could do with more money.
I don't think there's anything wrong with raising taxes.
I'm
if
not
there's a-
suggesting there
If
is.
there's a reason for it, and they're well justified.
Louis, I just want to point out that when we started the meeting in Gary's office with the department heads, we started that 2 years ago, and I've been fortunate enough to attend most of those meetings. And the first year I attended, at least my perception of it was, they were a little kind of standoffish. That we were
Yeah.
kind of invading on their space. But the second year, I felt, was much more, they were open, they were engaging a lot more, they were appreciative, and we actually got feedback from Gary, from the department heads, that they saw the benefit of this, they are ultimately going to come here on TV, on the podium, and present their budget, but they appreciated that private setting, and it could relax and open up a little bit more, and I think it was really beneficial for them and us, and I hope to continue it, and hopefully we get continued success with it.
Yeah, and I think most, the requests that happened was from the departments themselves. They came to me and said, well, the presentations are great that they give in front of the finance committee, but the open dialogue, I think in a smaller group, where we have one or two members there, I think is really effective, and it really, it lets them feel valued, that they're being listened to, at least being listened to.
I think the whole thing really is conveying a teamwork atmosphere rather than saying, like, you're superior. We're not, we're working as a team. And what we tried to do, actually, Brian started this initiative, was he developed a metric, if you will. And I think there was a little bit of skepticism on the part of the departments on what is it that meant. Are you criticizing us? Is this supposed to help us? And I think as time goes on, and the metric, if you will, is tweaked a little bit, you'll see more cooperation and not so, well, why are you asking me these questions type attitude. So I think basically, I think we have a good initiative baseline to establish teamwork and going forward, and I just hope it keeps up that way.
Yeah, me too. So part of the reason that I was asking, and I don't know if it's something that you might be able to denote as you're thinking about what should be considered moving forward, is it seems like some of these things may already be underway, right? I think some of the departments are already looking at these things. It might be worthwhile to denote that the departments that you're supporting them, but the departments are already starting in this direction. And the reason that I raise that is I've had comments to me that concerns that it looks like I might not be doing my job. It looks like the FinCom is proposing this when we're working on this. And so maybe that's something that could be noted, so that, I think it's, I think the professional staff would like to be some recognition that they're thinking about this too when they're thinking about the future. So I don't know how you would do that, but maybe it's something to consider.
Well, one of the things we could do is mention, I presume we're going to have these meetings again. We could mention in the preamble and the letter that we send to town meeting that we've had these meetings.
Well,
And-
right, but even within, I'm looking at this section under conclusions, it says, despite the challenges of rising cost of inflation, and you provide a list of, we are confident that through proactive planning and strategic initiatives, we can chart a more favorable course. Consider the following: expand the commercial tax base, for instance, create mixed-use zoning overlays to help grow the commercial tax base, potentially offsetting some increases. Is planning already working? Is the planning director already working on that?
Well, my impression was he is not.
Well-
And that was based on discussions with them in these one-on-one meetings. So all that was calling out what we felt was important to the town. And
Yes.
there's no, I don't think there's anything in there that says we're working on any of that stuff.
I understand. I'm just reflecting feedback that I received, that where people felt like they were not, that these were ideas of the FinCom, but not necessarily ideas that were ongoing within the department. And I'm really just raising it so that could you be I guess I'm asking you, could you be thinking about that as you send out the letter or as you talk to department heads? That's all.
No, that's a fair statement, but I will also say that all those conclusions were discussed openly in our joint meeting with the Select Board.
Yep.
So at that time, anything that was in progress, it could have been raised.
Right, were the department heads there?
No, just, it was a joint public meeting between
Right.
FinCom and the Select Board
Right,
at
so
the end of
I'm,
April.
this is more the professional staff has these
Okay.
concerns. That's,
And
that,
it's interesting too, because over time, we haven't met with every single department. So I think that part of going to those meetings, we used to,
Right.
but it was too much, and it was trying to cram things in that we didn't really need, like, for example, library is so limited, and I think town clerk, there was another department, but there are some things that are pretty self-apparent, and I think we were thinking that this is a way to, we might want to formalize that a little bit more
Well,
and think.
we gave all the departments the option to come in, and if they felt they needed to speak with us and make a presentation or meet with us individually like the other departments, we gave them that option.
Yeah, not everybody came before us publicly.
No, only the larger departments did.
Right, the larger
But
ones,
every-
or
but every
if they
department met
wanted
with the
to.
one-on-one, and had the one-on-one discussions, every single department.
Right, that's
We didn't
right.
exclude anybody who wanted to.
No, we made that.
That was the
yeah.
point. We went
Not at all.
out of our way to say, if you want to come talk to us, please do.
But I think it's fair, Brian, that, when we put it in writing in the future, that we maybe just be mindful that we are not misinterpreting that. We're not saying that the department's not doing their job. I can see how that could be misconstrued by the department. So I think that it's good to be mindful about how we word it. And I'm sure we could word it better in the future.
You
I
know,
think so.
the biggest thing is justification. When these departments come in front of us with their budgets, we're looking down the road, is this justified? Why did you go up here, down here? And then we just try to get a general idea of what is happening, because we don't sit down with them when they're doing the budgets.
Right.
We don't expect them to sit down with us, but when they come in front of us, we do ask questions. As long as these things are justified, then we can, move on.
Yep.
Just to pick up on John's comments, I like what you were saying, John, about meeting with the various departments and having this collaboration. When you think about yourselves as a finance committee, what is the feeling that you're trying to create for the people that come before you?
That we support what they're doing, and that when we put these requests for things like metrics, et cetera, is to take it out of the realm of opinion and put quantitative facts, and then we can support budget increases. I don't think anybody's against the budget increase on this committee if it's supported with facts. And in the past, we get a lot of opinions, but very few facts.
It's always challenging for us when we hear folks come before us, and I'm not picking on anybody in particular, and just state how busy they are. That's why, how do you justify busy? And that's why, certainly Brian has been a major proponent of getting metrics. So to us, and those of us who came from a corporate background, I'm sorry, numbers are everything in the corporate world. So it's very important to say, I need this because of X, Y, Z, and then maybe I could accomplish whatever, and here's the financial justification for it. So that's why some of us think that way. But, we're also trying to make it so we're listening to them, absolutely, but, we kind of want to hear why they feel, how busy they are, what are they producing, whatever. And it's not meant to put them on the spot.
No,
It's never our
and we
intent.
realize that town government is not like a business.
No.
But,
should
but, there has to be some sort of metrics involved, especially if you're asking for more money. Some places that I've worked, just to get what you had last year, you had to
Right.
put together a zero-based budget. So, and just to go back to answer your question, we're here to, I don't think I've ever seen anybody on this committee give anybody that presented to us a hard time about what they were spending and what they were spending it on. I think we've always been very supportive. I mean, wouldn't you all agree?
We just
It's
want.
more about understanding than
That's right.
trying to put them on the spot.
That's right.
Well, I think, when you ask tough questions, people's perception might be a little bit different than, the scrutiny we're putting them through, and maybe can be more mindful of that, but I look at it, that's a job, is to ask the tough questions and to look after the best interests of the town. And, you know, a department head is getting paid to, in my opinion, to answer the tough questions, you know?
I think there's been a learning curve for people, and some people in department heads, to understand what people in the finance committee are asking. Some people have really not understood what is being asked for as far as metrics go. And honestly, having worked in that kind of a setting, it is difficult sometimes to come up with the specifics that would, you know, justify, I think, how do you know you're doing a good job, you know?
Yeah, another point too, I think the Finance Committee has done a pretty good job with putting their hats on what a town meeting member might think or might ask. I think that when the committee does their deliberations, they have in the back of their mind of what those questions may be at town meeting. And if you've seen over the last couple of years, the last couple of town meetings, the finance questions are now getting to be a little bit more obvious. I mean, people are starting to ask now the number questions, it's like last town meeting. So I think that the committee prepares themselves for that. Some of the times, the questions come out of the blue, but I think generally speaking, the committee does a pretty good job with being able to answer those questions, or being prepared to answer those questions at town meeting.
I think we've evolved in a very good way, you know, like Brian and Terry, you know, so we've been here several years at this point. And it's changed a lot in those past 5 years for me with the questions that we ask. And I know there are those that think we ask far too many. And yes, has that number increased? It has. But I think we've all gotten smarter and more to the point on why we ask those questions. So I think it's a good way to evolve. And I understand from the other side, they weren't used to it. So that was a challenge.
I think that the finance committee is the checks and balances of the town, right? Somebody's got to be watching to see where's the money going, why is it going there? And I think Brian has created a nice document to try to help show, okay, well, what are your objectives for this year? What are your goals for this year? Have you met them? What are the reasons why you didn't meet them? Was the budget sufficient? Do you need more money for X, Y, and Z? So I think that, though, that when people come here, that they are very intimidated by the finance committee. And I really would hope that they're not, because, you know, we're just here looking out for the town and truly looking out for everybody. So, yeah.
I think the one-on-ones have made them a little bit more comfortable.
Yeah, I agree.
You know, I think that now, if, you know, not having to come up here and do a 20-minute presentation, like I mentioned, sitting down with them, listening to them, I think that that's made them a lot more comfortable over at least the last year. I know the last couple of years, like, we've been doing it for the last few years, but I know last year, it was requested, so.
Yeah.
Great, great. I come from a corporate background as well, and so I can appreciate the thought process around metrics. I also have found that volunteering within the town, that sometimes government works different than a corporate environment, and it's because of the laws and the other rules that constrain people. And so I think that's important to take into you know, I hope that you consider that as you're doing these meetings as well, because sometimes I remember when I started with CPC, it was like, well, why can't we do that? It's like, well, there are rules that you have to follow now that it's, you know, it sometimes bogs you down a little, but there may be reasons, and it sounds like you all are working hard to have a cooperative and collaborative rapport with the various departments, and would be open to hearing their reasons when there are things that are beyond, that are rules that they really don't have much control over. You know, there are laws and rules in place, so good. Carrie, I appreciate you highlighting that they can feel intimidated. People can feel intimidated when they come before the finance committee. Nobody wants to look dumb. They're trying to do a good job. And I would guess that many of your questions are similar year to year, and maybe it's a learning curve for them as well. So, great. Can you talk to me a little bit about, when are you a finance committee member?
What was that again, Melissa?
When are you a finance committee member?
When you walk in the door after you've been appointed.
Yeah.
So I agree. I think you're a finance committee member when you're here at meetings. There are times when letters and messages have gone out with finance committee member in the signature block. And I would just ask people to make sure that when that happens, that it is because there was a finance committee vote. You're welcome to your opinion and have an opinion about various things that go on in town. I have no interest in constraining anyone's, participation in town government. But I would ask that you just be mindful that when you're putting finance committee member or a position in the finance committee in the signature block, it's because you're acting with the authority of the finance committee. Other than that, you're a private resident. You don't like where you vote, you're a private residence, that's not a finance committee issue. You don't like how, I don't know, the animal control is doing something, unless it's related to the budget and it's part of, your remit. So I would just ask you to be mindful of that, please. The other thing that I noticed that was part of the topics that you all are looking forward to discussing at a future meeting was some of the educational opportunities put on through the Association of Town Finance Committee meetings. I think that would be great to the extent that they look like they would be interesting to you all to attend. I've spoken with Heidi Silverbrooks just to make sure that there's money available, and she said the select board has money for those educational opportunities. I go to the Moderators Association meetings and I get a lot out of it, and some of it is even in the informal sessions where I have an opportunity to talk with someone else to hear how things go on in their community, what they do differently. There's always something, I found there's always something to learn. So I do think there's some monies available for that, should you all be interested in doing that. I think they usually take place in Boston for the day, so I know sometimes
We're
that's.
also going to send one liaison from the committee to the MMA meeting, Massachusetts,
Yep.
in Boston, which is usually January.
Yep.
But a lot of the meetings that the association puts on for the town finance committees is virtual, so they can, and if they can't, they can catch it on a
Yep.
YouTube video or, so,
Some of us have attended those webinars.
Yeah,
They're very informative, and they're all available on demand, and we're members, so you can
yeah,
grab it
I've
and
watched
watch
some of them too. I do, once again, that's the other spot where I was watching, I'm like, what do you mean they're responsible for the budget, when I was initially looking at some of those, and then you have to appreciate that there are differences from community to community. I also handed out today a copy of the Finance Committee Handbook. I think this is the newest edition. It was sent out in 2021. I know it's available online. I think Gary
I have
has
it
the link
electronically.
to it. Because I'm sure you guys have read through it. I just noticed that on the website, there was an older version, and I want to make sure that you had a newer version. I did not spend any time at all comparing them. Let me just fess up to that.
Is it still 178 pages?
It is,
Yes.
it is a
Front and
lot,
back.
186 or something.
See, we have discussed it.
163, I don't doubt it.
There's less than 100.
I don't doubt it. I thought there was a lot of good information in here. And I'm sure you're doing many of the things just in terms of, best practices, and I thought it was a really great document and an interesting read. I think the only other thing that I would ask is that, going forward, I'd like to more codify, for reappointment purposes, meeting attendance. I know most of you are here the vast majority of the time, but I am looking at adopting a similar standard to the select board of an 85% attendance rate, and I would ask that people make their best effort to attend town meeting. I think it's important that you are well represented at town meeting. I understand things come up, people get sick, there's a family issue, but we know town meeting, we know town meeting dates well in advance. If people need those, I'm happy to provide them, but I'd ask that you make your best effort. As I said, I know there are sometimes things that come up, but, the only other thing that I have, I think, on my, that I would like to talk about is a code of conduct, and whether or not the finance committee would think about that as something that they might consider and adopt. I think that you all have a nice culture here right now, and you act within a set of kind of unwritten rules for you as a group, and I think it would be great to be able to continue that as people leave the finance committee, you know, as it turns over some, to maintain the culture that you have. And I didn't know if a code of conduct might be something that you would consider to kind of codify the things that you do already as a group. And there are various forms of that out there that I don't have a particular opinion as to what should be adopted, but you all seem to work nicely as a team now, and even when people disagree, you do it in a way that's not particularly disagreeable, and you have vibrant discussion, and it would be great to be able to maintain that culture going forward.
So have you heard complaints or concerns? Do you have concerns about the way people have interacted here?
I haven't, but I hadn't been aware that the select board had one, and once I became aware of that, I was like, you know what, that's not a bad idea to have that as another
I
set
have a
that.
question. Like,
Yeah.
if we were to write something like that, how is it policed? Is it just words? I'm thinking of a particular incident on the select board who had a,
I don't know how it's policed, but I do think it is kind of the objective standard by which it's it's policed in that there's a reappointment process. And I think if over the course of a term, people are not adhering to a code of conduct, they would probably not get reappointed, would be my guess.
Could
But in the
I try
short
to
run.
address one issue that I am aware of, and just to be very specific about how the sequence was and how it happened? Because I'm not sure I agree with the need for a code of conduct for this group. We should talk about it, because I don't know what other people think, but we, as a finance committee, we had not heard anything about a process for hiring, except that there had been one. And so one day, and I don't remember the exact day, but Bob thought it would be nice for the finance committee to write just a letter of support for Gary. I think most of us agreed formally.
We all
We did not, I'm not finished.
I'm
We
finished.
did not have a vote on it. It was just, this would be a nice thing to do, and so he did, and that's probably why he signed finance committee to that letter. But unfortunately, the timing, all of a sudden, on one Thursday night, as we were getting ready to submit that letter, we heard there was going to be a hire. I don't want to make Cody uncomfortable. I just want to say that, to me, is how that clash happened, because, and then the person who didn't follow the code of conduct was pretty obvious. So I think in that, there was not an equivalence in my perspective between Bob speaking and Sean speaking. That was completely inappropriate. It wasn't just a disagreement. Didn't follow his own code of conduct, which he wrote. So I would be concerned that if one person on the committee thinks we need one because of that, that makes no sense to me.
So I really don't want to rehash things that have happened in the past.
Okay.
But what I would like to, so you all can choose, I'm not looking to impose this. I floated it as an idea because I think this committee works well. I think it could include things like, so I think when I asked the question about when are you a finance committee member, I think some of the norms of collaboration are to assume best intent, right? That's how people work best together. And my raising that, my thought is that people didn't know that they shouldn't do it, right?
Okay.
That maybe people weren't aware that they really shouldn't be signing it with them as a FinCom member when it's something that's doesn't have a FinCom vote.
Yeah.
That might be something.
That's a good point.
That would be listed on the code of conduct. You're a private resident, if you're unhappy you didn't get your beach sticker on time, I'm sorry,
Right,
but
right.
there's no benefit. The FinCom pay, as we've pointed out, is really low, that and the moderator's pay, I mean,
Like that comment
it's.
about the FinCom should do something about the trash bags, we really can't do anything
Right,
about it.
exactly, and
But on the collab, just to finish, you got a copy of the table of contents that Janine sent?
I did.
And I'm thinking, when we think about that, we're talking about, like, what does the liaison do? How does the meeting run? We don't have that.
I'm sorry, I don't think I did get maybe I did, but it was later, the
No,
table
I'm
of
sorry,
contents
Terry,
for
I thought you were going to, I don't
I
have
thought
an electronic
I'm
version.
sorry, I will send it to you, but it's basically what you're talking about, the
Okay.
informal things that we do as a committee, that if we are left today what would people in the future do?
And maybe it gets captured in that.
Okay.
I did not, when you said.
I was
that-
just reacting to code of conduct, because I haven't seen anybody here be inappropriate in that way, so
No,
I,
but it's those sorts of things that, maybe somebody doesn't know that that's not really appropriate.
so norms for collaboration might be something.
Okay, maybe right,
Yeah.
maybe it's assume best intention sort of thing. It's what John raised about how do you want people to feel when they come before the select board? They have their own. How do you want people to feel when they come before the finance committee? What your objectives are. People are gonna be anxious anyway, right? So even if you're, and I expect that you would be warm and collaborative and interested in working with them, and you should ask the questions that you need to ask. There are ways I like to hear that you're interested in collaborating, because there are ways that you can ask the same question that are more or less intimidating. And so I appreciate that you all are focused on trying to be collaborative and work with the different people that come before you, and not be intentionally intimidating, because people just they're on TV,
There are multiple finance committees across the state that have code of
Yes.
ethics. In front of
We're
you,
looking
you
at the same
have,
thing.
in front of you, I've drafted one
Oh, I
for
was going to ask
consideration.
that question, Gary. This is from you.
Yep, no.
For consideration, not at tonight's meeting, but just to look it over.
So
And
to,
potentially vote on something in the future.
So I looked at it briefly, obviously, we just got this, so certainly to have something simplistic with a couple of items that are important about ethics, that type of thing, I could see that being included. I will tell you, I reviewed the Select Board's Code of Conduct today, all 6 pages of it. I don't think we need 6 pages on how to behave.
I just want to point out, and to reiterate what Gary just said, MMA, I'm on the website right now, and MMA does recommend that all the committees actually have a code of conduct, and furthermore, should have the same code of conduct. So we may consider adopting something very similar to theirs. I can send this to you guys, but MMA, Massachusetts Municipal Association, does recommend that we all follow the same code of conduct.
That would be great.
Understood.
All committees.
I'm not sure
All
we need
committees
6
within a
pages,
town,
but
including a select board,
Well, I mean, I
finance,
think
all
it's-
of them.
I think it's fine to have one, but I think if people don't follow the code of conduct, then what? So what is the purpose of having one if you don't
So-
follow the?
Well,
code?
I think Melissa already hit on it.
That's another-
That comes up under if you're gonna be reappointed or not, and that.
Well, and it's a set of expectations, I think, for all of
Yes.
you as a committee. Like, this is
Yes.
this is what we have agreed to as a standard, and our
Yeah.
expectation is that all members would
Yeah.
behave in this way that's, I'm sorry.
Melissa, thanks for bringing this up, because I think it's,
Yep.
personally, in my opinion, I think it's a good idea.
Yeah.
I would not want to mimic the select board's code of conduct. That's a different beast. And what we witnessed recently, it didn't work. But I think we should adopt one, but if we don't, as a committee, adopt one, I have confidence in you that, because you're the appointing authority, that if someone got out of line at some point, that you just don't get reappointed.
Yeah.
And it's not like, anybody can go out and hire a lawyer and I was fired. No, you weren't fired, you just weren't reappointed for whatever reason. But I think it's good to have something in writing that we all can look at, agree on to when as new members come in, and understand what the code of conduct is. So it's something I definitely would entertain.
Yeah, I mean, I appreciate that you all are, chaos in government is not really gonna work, and it's not efficient, and I appreciate the finance committee's role in being collaborative and working together with other departments. I don't really have anything else. While I'm here, though, I'd be happy to answer any questions that you all have.
Well, I actually happened at town meeting, Melissa, when Nate Silver got up in front of town meeting and had all this information about how he could be, reducing these budgets and transferring it all over into, the school department, which is fine. And then the select board suggested that next go-around, there'd be more collaboration. And I'm firmly in favor of that. I would like to see more collaboration with us, working with the select board, working with the school department, and coming up with a budget that makes sense, and rather being at loggerheads, and then waiting for town meeting for somebody to stand up and say, well, you should have done this, should have done that, which I thought was money more than quarterbacking, really, and not having enough insight, because these budgets were prepared, and, yeah, as you know as well as I do, 80% of most budgets is labor, and these labors that we have are contracted labor agreements. So I don't know where he was getting the $800,000 from, that's for another time, another discussion. But my point being is I would like to see more collaboration between select board, school department, and us. And there was an issue that the town came up with a budget for their department, the administrator and so on and so forth. That's what started the whole thing, was a communication problem. It wasn't really relayed to us what their intention was. We had this number for a salary, and then there was another number that was going to be contracted. And that's what started the whole thing, really. And I think once we iron out those communication problems, I think there'll be less issues down the road.
If I can address that. So I've taken it upon myself in my 1 week tenure as chair to reach out to others. I reached out to Cody, and he understands that I want to continue to attend the department meetings that they have once a month, just to sit in, not to say anything, just to sit in. I was doing it prior when Gary was interim, so I could hear what each one of the department heads was saying, and it gave me a good look at what was happening in the town. The other thing I did, and this just happened, was I reached out to the select board. So same thing, asking for collaboration, asking to meet more. So that's in play.
So can I just comment on that? So the department head meeting, as a finance committee member, I appreciate your enthusiasm. Let me start there. I appreciate your enthusiasm. If Cody said that you're not welcome to their finance committee, to their department head meetings, he would be within his bounds, because they are not open to the public. And there may be instances in which department heads don't feel comfortable with people outside their department head group raising issues because they aren't open to the public. So I appreciate your enthusiasm, but I'm not sure that that falls under our mandate, frankly. And I understand why you want to do it, but if as administrators they said no, I would also understand that perspective.
I think in the past, just going back a couple years, the finance committee operated as an island, honestly. We operated as an island. All of a sudden, someone came in, a director of finance, whoever, came in and whoop, here were munis reports. And this is how we did the budget. We had and we do have liaison reports, but it's not the same, to get the same information. So that's why, I just happened to be in one of the meetings with Gary, and that's why I asked to return to them. I mean, I understand what you're saying. Of course, you have the right to say no. I didn't see any secrets being revealed in a public meeting with, 30 people. I don't know how many department heads there are, but there was no secrets. It was people who were just giving me a sense of what was happening or important to them in each one of the departments. So I feel like there's a little bit more of a connection when we move into the budget cycle, where then we're meeting with them sort of one-on-one.
Yeah.
So we understand what their concerns are or what they're facing. That was the reason I asked.
I hear you. I just see it as a little bit of mission drift, and I'm not sure that it's really the role of the finance committee to be this is an advisory board, not a supervisory board. And I think that's important. I think that's important to remember, that the finance committee is not a policy setting group. There are other people within the town's system of government that set the policy. I think that we need to reference the bylaw and the charter as to what the role of the finance committee is. And I appreciate the effort to be diligent. I just think it's beyond the scope. We would not let someone else from the public probably sit in on a department head meeting. So that's my thought on it.
Well, Melissa, if it pertained to the budget, would you still take exception to that? I don't see why that would be overstepping anything. I really don't.
I think if it's a public meeting, it's fine. If you are doing these smaller meetings and the Director of Budget and Finance and the Town Administrator agree that it would be useful to have you meet with the department heads in these smaller private meetings, I think that's fine in anticipation of understanding the budget that they're putting before you. But the Finance Committee doesn't set the budget in our town, and it is a advisory, not a supervisory, and it's not a policy-setting committee. And I am not, none of that is meant to diminish your role. What I'm saying is not in any way meant to diminish your role or the importance of the work that you're doing. It's just that is what is prescribed for us as a town. You know, we could certainly go to charter committee or something to change that if you know, the finance committee felt like it needed to broaden its role, you could certainly try to do that. But based on what we have now,
No, I think it's just basically to get an understanding of where these numbers come from. I don't think it's mean to be forming a criticism or some type of critique. It's just saying, you're doing analysis. This is what this committee does. We analyze budget numbers. And to get a better understanding, I think it'd be helpful in a way just to see where these numbers are coming from.
yeah, I just don't know that, I know the select board sometimes attends these meetings. I don't think it's actually I don't think it's really their role either to attend the department head meetings. They have hired a town, I view it like what's the job of a board? You know, it's you've hired a professional to run the town. There are times when it makes, maybe there are times when it makes sense, but by and large, if it's not a public meeting, it's left to the executives to run the town like a, you all have been through corporate living, you know, like a corporation, not unlike a corporation. I'm also just want to follow up on a comment that you had, Bill, and I think it's important. I'm not sure that the general public understands that with education reform, and you know better than I do, Terry, with education reform, the school department can put whatever they want in their budget and move money, you know, you essentially vote them a dollar amount, and they're able to spend it as they see fit, and I'm not sure that the general public appreciates that piece of it. Ed reform came in and allowed them to do that. So even as Mr. Silva was making some proposals, he had some ideas about how he wanted the money spent, but there was no way that town meeting could have enforced that. They could have given the school department more money,
Yep.
and the school department may have, in an act of, you know, good faith, agreed to spend it that way, but I have no idea what the school's priorities were. And that was one of the challenges I saw, and it's one of the things I'm not sure town meeting always understands.
Well, and to that point, again, you know, I don't know how he was making these reductions, if you will, from these other departments. How was he formulating these numbers? Again, there's probably, for a whole meeting could have been discussed that,
Right,
but I just something, it was kind of nebulous in a way, you know, the way the discussion was going.
Yeah.
But it should be followed up, and he has some good points, and I would like to see more collaboration.
Yeah, I mean, I think Mr. Silva went to many, many, many meetings and talked to many people about what his concerns are, and he wanted to have a conversation at town meeting about that topic, and he got that. And that
Yeah.
was, I think, people start thinking about what we need to do. How long have we been talking about school system funding? And it just goes along and goes along. I think it took something like that to really make people talk about it. So I give him a lot of credit for the time that he's put into that.
Yeah, agreed.
On another subject and question I got for you, where are we with the two open seats with the Finance Committee?
Only about two, I have one. We have two.
No,
Phil
you got
and
Bob
some,
and you
I've
got,
never gotten a letter from Mr. Lenz.
no?
I got a copy of it.
He sent us a
Yeah,
letter.
you did. He probably never copied you, Melissa.
I never got a copy, and nor has the clerk, because when someone resigns, typically the moderator and the clerk get a letter, and I had heard a rumor that Mr. Lenz was going to resign, but I have never received any. You know, sometimes people get angry, and in the moment they say they're not gonna come back, but I have not seen any.
Actually write a
Officially
letter.
resigned.
I'll reach out to him
He
and
wrote
tell
an
him he has
email, yeah.
to send it to him.
Or I can call him. I had heard that he was planning to resign, but I had never received
he resigned
any
already.
notification.
He made it clear to me that he
Oh, he
was
sure
done
did.
at town meeting. But with
so
that note,
No questions asked.
if you haven't appointed somebody, you want to use this opportunity to,
I have not appointed anyone yet, so I have
Or-
spoken with some people, I have reached out to a number of people who apparently don't want to be on the finance committee because they haven't even called me back. As you all know, because and I don't have any problems talking about this publicly, but as when I talk to all of you, I am trying to create a finance committee where people have different skill sets, they come from different backgrounds, different parts of towns, different strengths, different viewpoints. So sometimes I have amazing people that would be great FinCom members, but maybe not for the seat that I have available. I'm still trying to, I had somebody express some interest, I'm trying to get in touch with them. I've reached out to some people that, they thought they'd make great FinCom members, and I called and I told them what I was calling for, and I have never returned my call, so I'm guessing they don't want to play. You will see on all the benefits here, so I'm gonna keep working on it. I do it as quickly as I can, but sometimes it takes me, like, I'm out in the woods walking the dogs, thinking about how this person's gonna fit in, what I'm looking for qualifications. I spend quite a bit of time thinking about it and trying to find the right person for the right time. I have people that have volunteered, and right now, I think they'd be great. Right now, I think it would create more of a shift in the committee's views because of what their views are. So I'm trying not to have too many people that are advocating for any particular issue, too many, what I found personally sitting on the FinCom was that I could have, before I joined the FinCom, I could have spent the town into an enormous pile of debt. But when I joined the FinCom and saw the budget and the competing needs, it gives you a different view. And I find that people tend to kind of come to the middle because there are a lot of things we need in town, right? We want services, they cost money. And so I'm trying to find people, as I said, from different backgrounds to create balance. I am working on it. I've reached out to a couple of people. I'm gonna fill it as soon as possible. I apologize, I didn't realize Mr. Lenz had.
Good luck. I know it's not easy, so thanks.
Yeah. Well, I didn't realize Mr. Lenz had actually
I
resigned.
just
Yeah.
forwarded his letter to you.
Yeah, and he sent an email, so I forwarded the email
Yeah,
to
you
you.
did, right.
Okay. I didn't, see, I looked for it because I had heard the rumor, but I didn't actually seem to receive it, so,
I mean, right now, the committee's in a lull, right before fall town
Yes.
meeting, so there is
Yeah.
some time.
right. This is the quieter time, and as I said, it's hard to make a quorum, I know sometimes, especially in
Yeah,
vacations. Yep,
it's,
so I will continue to work on that. I thought I only had one seat to fill.
and it's not only the quorum, but I like working with the full board, because I like listening to the diverse ideas and opinions, and I think it's healthy.
Yep.
Right.
Yep. But if you have people that you know are interested, have them reach out to me. You've got my phone number, they can call or text me. I'm not giving it on the air, but if somebody were to call town hall, they can get my phone number. Anybody else with any questions?
Just a comment, Madam Chair. I think that this is important to have the moderator in, even on a yearly basis, even after town meeting, to recap,
Yes.
what went on, what we talked about, what the committee's focused on, and I think that on an annual basis, it's probably something that the committee would want to do.
So if the committee would like to do that, I'm happy to come back. I generally appoint the finance committee and try to leave you to your own devices. You will notice that none of you have ever had me calling you to talk about an issue and how I think you should vote. That's not how I operate. So I'd be happy to come back if you would like to invite me back. I try not to crash your meeting and get overly involved in the work that you're doing.
I have two questions.
Yes.
Do you ever watch our meetings?
Oh, yes.
Just checking. Quiz you on that.
She answered that quickly.
I know you did answer that
Definitely
quickly. I
did.
just wanted to make sure. I want to know if
Yes.
you were, you know.
She doesn't turn the volume on, though.
I do turn the volume up.
And
I
second,
won't lie, I sometimes put them on 125 or 150 to,
second question, I forwarded you the list of topics that we're
yes.
discussing or will move forward on our agenda. Did you have any thoughts on those? Some of them we mentioned
Good
tonight.
question.
So in light of our discussion tonight, would you like to talk about them and see, do you think they all fit? I do have it.
It's right here.
Oh, Oh, she gave it to me. She did give me a
Green,
copy.
yeah, it's green.
Sorry,
So
I did get a copy.
this list has gone through, as all the committee members know when they see it, it has been edited. Because we had lots of other topics on there that were really, whether or not everybody agrees, the majority agreed were out of the scope of our responsibilities. So this is the new trimmed-down list of things that we're going to be talking about or putting on our agenda, so, anyway, your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so, the ones that I think rise to the top in terms of whether or not, so I don't have a lot of verbiage here about what exactly you were talking about with regard to these topics. So maybe I'm just not really understanding them, but I was looking at grant writing and economic development. While important for the town, do those fall under the remit of the finance committee?
The reason those are on there are because, and you probably saw this in the letter to town meeting, they were brought up as important to contribute to Dartmouth's well-being. And it was also a presentation from the FinCom to the Select Board at the April meeting. So it's more of a matter of discussing them going forward, not that we're driving it by any means. And you'll see, for example, that, we have a joint meeting with the Select Board at the end of July. And I know one of the things that's going to happen there is someone's going to give an update on grants. Is that correct, Cody? So that's why I put that note in there, just so we'll get an update on it. We're not driving it by any means, but we, as a group, believe that it's valuable to the town, of course. But we just want to be kept in the loop. That's why items like that are on the list.
Okay, and even departmental revenue generation, I mean, I think that's
Well,
another one.
I can
that's-
tell you where those came from. As a result of the idea of trying to get more grants, is because it directly contributes to the tax rate. And when we had these one-on-one meetings with the department heads that were referenced earlier in this meeting, quite a number of them said, gee, we'd like to do more, but we haven't got the time because we're running departments. And therefore, any additional help they could get from the outside, not us, but a professional grant writer or a part-time grant writer or a company that writes grants and gets a piece of the action as a result of writing the grants would be welcome. That's where that one came from. And economic development, that came from looking at the long-term, by the Department of Revenue and also the other one that put, local services, Department of Local Services, puts out a number of charts, graphs, information. And for us, what it showed was the tax rate was going like this, and the contributors, with the exception of the residential tax rate, were going like this. And we've had people in here talking about how Route 6 was a perfect mixed-use development corridor and would ameliorate taxes going forward if we could get more development and more companies moving in there. And in the past, I've been pushing this for about 5 years, and the best I could get out of people when they came in here to talk to us about it was, well, we have a list of empty storefronts. That isn't how you go about trying to get companies to move in. So what we wanted to do is send a message that to help ameliorate the taxes, it would be a good idea if we had a more formal, structured development. Not that we would run it, but the appropriate departments would run it.
So tell me, when we're looking at the bylaw, and it talks about powers and duties, how some of those items fit into that?
Well, because in fact, I read it as a liberal interpretation of finances and also being able to discuss what department heads are doing to help the town develop economically. I read it as contributing.
Can I interject? So when we sat down with department heads, certainly every major department, if not most of the departments, all said that they could do more with grants if they had the ability,
That's true,
the
yeah.
access to grant writing. So for us, and for me, and I think we've discussed this a number of times, and we still haven't formulated our position yet, but the thought process, we know we're not the policymakers. We know we don't have the ability to hire. We don't have a budget. We all understand that. But from my perspective, and I think, can we influence the policymakers through investigation, putting together some numbers and a presentation to say, listen, we can't tell you what to do, but this is the kind of feedback we're getting, and we're recommending that this may not be a bad idea. I think all of us understand that we can't drive the bus,
Right,
but we can still yell from the back of the bus and say, hey, you're taking a wrong turn,
yeah,
and that might be appreciated.
yep.
So I think that's our position
We had a
is.
similar conversation about legal counsel. It was
Yeah,
along
yeah,
the
there were a
same
number
lines.
of factors that we thought, can we influence a different way? And it's the common thread and common goal is financing. Can we save some money by, taking a different turn?
Yeah, I mean, I think if this is coming out as part of your process in department head meetings, it's certainly something you could pass on to the select board. But in terms of furthering the agenda, when I look at the powers and duties, this talks about the warrant and to investigate expenditures of monies by town officials and to notify the select board in writing as to whether or not, in their opinion, the expenditure is or was justified. And there may be, I think your intentions are honorable, and I understand that, the desire, when you're hearing these things, these are areas that you think might be helpful to the town. And I think it's perfectly reasonable to pass those along, maybe as a letter to the select board. In terms of driving the bus, I think that is really, grant writing is either another department or another board, and it may be another volunteer opportunity for members of the finance committee that want to work on, some of these things. And Cody, as over time, I'm sure will have, we have a list of a lot of places where volunteers could help with the town, and some of that might overlap with this, but I'm not sure that it's,
Well, I think basically they were really discussion points.
Yep.
Melissa, them running and taking on new initiatives
okay,
to govern.
Yep.
I think that was really what the intent of it was. Saying, how about grant writing, how about economic development? Because
Sure.
we're all looking down the road.
yes,
And, we're seeing some obstacles in front of us, the mere fact that the expenses keep going up and the revenue is getting a little light. So
Yep.
what do we do to circumvent the problem? How do we get around it? And just discussion points, not to, step on somebody's toes, but I think just to say, hey, I think we should be looking into this. Discussion only, not to be in a superior role.
I'm just concerned about the roles and responsibilities, and some of this really lies with Gary and his team, or Cody and his team, in terms of how are we gonna generate revenue for the town. Certainly, highlighting these things as part of your communications with them is fine, but I don't think it's the FinCom's role to decide.
My opinion on this would be if we raise a specific question, and I can't think of one offhand, but to say, so what is the town doing in a particular area to ultimately alleviate the tax rate on residential by writing more grants?
But show me where that's in your powers and duties.
It's
a discussion
finance,
point.
and it's either that,
But it doesn't say you're responsible for the budget, Brian. It says, this is what I'm trying to highlight. So if you look at the bylaws under
I
chapter
can read it,
34.
yes.
Yeah. I wasn't gonna read it to you, but I just wanted to point out where the duties are. That's all.
I think you're looking at a group that has, and I'm proud of this fact, that has tremendous initiative
I love that.
and lots of ideas, and we just like to share them.
And
We're not trying to step on anybody's toes. I don't think most people, we have
Yep.
not offended, to my knowledge. But we're just trying to show that we're thinking about things beyond some line items on a
Yeah.
munis report.
well, and I would read this comma, to investigate expenditures on any monies by town officials as well as not expending money. Both.
Sure.
So therefore, if the town is not spending money to ameliorate the tax rate, we're allowed to ask questions about things that seem to us are directly relevant to answering that question. So specifically to say something like, well, what's the town doing on grants? And then especially when it's backed up by going to meetings, we have departments say, well, we'd like to be able to write more, but we don't have the time. And all we did when we mentioned all those things in that letter and in our preamble to the select board was to suggest these are areas the town, based on our discussions, should take a look at.
There may be other systems to put in place to address some of these things, and I think part of what you're hearing is, for me, frustration with the leadership, or lack of, because there's just been change, there's been, it's not been clear, where we're headed. The communication with select board goes back and forth, so there may be some things that we can recommend that, with Gary and maybe with Cody to address some of these. I think the comments that you're making are heard. And,
Yeah, it's been a difficult time in which the town has, Gary's been doing it on an interim basis. It hasn't quite been settled.
Yeah.
And it's not to diminish the work that Gary's done, which has been great, but it's hard to wear multiple hats, and, it needs to be settled before people can make longer-term decisions to move forward.
Right.
Yep. So, do you have any other questions for me? Well, thank you so much for allowing me to come and meet with you today. I really appreciate your time. Thank you again for all the effort that you put in. I appreciate your enthusiasm and your desire to work on behalf of the town. And I'm just glad to meet with you, and if you invite me back, I'd be happy to come back.
I think that would
We'll
be
invite
good.
you back.
Absolutely.
Quickly review things, yeah.
Absolutely
Just
will.
for a short period of time, maybe to process a meeting or answer questions.
Absolutely. And I will work at getting you more members, and thank you for forwarding Mr. Lund's resignation letter to me. I haven't worked on that one. I'm glad you brought it up.
For some reason.
Thank you. Okay, I'm going to excuse myself and let you finish your meeting. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Melissa.
So, next on the agenda, discussion topics. Hang on a second, let me just, stuck.
Doesn't want to move forward.
Does not want to move forward.
Yeah. Yeah, discussion topic.
We haven't, I don't think we've ever voted on them, and we certainly haven't prioritized them, am I correct?
What,
No,
this list?
no, all we did with that list so far, well, we
ideas
compiled
from
it, but we
different folks.
picked two or three that we wanted to, and this goes back to April, that we wanted to talk to the select board about. So that's why
Right.
they're closer to the top. Other than that, it's not prioritized in any way. That's, a couple of them were
So
the
which were the
ones
three that we chose to pick?
that we talked about with the select board.
Yes.
Well, the two main ones were grants and economic development. If you look at the column on the right.
Yep.
It says discussed at the, whenever that was,
Or
April
28,
28th.
yeah.
I want to comment that if the school committee is listening and the school department is listening, that they do a wonderful job on grant writing. They leave no grant unfiled for. Like, they are phenomenal. That was really other departments that said, we saw a grant, we started looking into it, but we got distracted, or we just didn't have the resources. And that's really where the grant writing came from. So I just wanted to clear the air on that the schools do a phenomenal job getting all the money they possibly can.
Mr.
from
Kiley
grants.
made that pretty clear in the April
Yeah.
meeting, actually. No, he got up and spoke and said
Yeah.
that, so he wasn't, I
Yeah.
mean, I don't think we were targeting anybody, it was just in
No, I just
general.
wanted to make sure there were no hard feelings on that, for sure.
It's not an intent.
Did you, in the last meeting that I didn't attend, were there more on that list? And
There
they
were.
We slimmed your list down a little.
We did, Brian.
Okay.
The majority slimmed down the list. And in the email that I sent out with the revised list, I did explain what I did as far as slimming it down. So yes, we took out the employee morale. I know. That's out.
I wanted to take out more, and Janine wouldn't go for it, so.
I consolidated some things because there was a lot referencing capital
I'm not
plan.
complaining. If we get any of these done, I'd be very surprised.
Yeah. Well, we have actually.
Or,
done-
sorry, if we can't get anything done ourselves, if we see the town moving to get some of these.
Raise awareness.
Let's check back in 6 months, Brian. I think you're gonna be pleasantly surprised.
Well, I sat through 4.5
Thanks, Cody.
years
I
of
like
your
that.
predecessor
Yeah.
and didn't see much done.
Well, like Melissa said, we're not looking in the past, we're looking forward, so.
Okay,
There you go.
I'm gonna
There
write
you
that
go.
down.
I-
Good
you hold-
attitude.
Well, you can hold me to it. I think in
No,
6
good
months, you'll be
at it.
pleasantly
That's the way it
surprised.
should be.
Hey, our list is down to 11 items. That's progress, isn't it? Yeah. We either consolidated, we knocked them out, or there was a couple that,
It's good you explained it, because I was getting cranky.
I could see that, I sensed it. There's a couple that are things that we're going to look for updates on. For example, and I will ask you this when we get to it on the agenda, the classification study and the master plan. 'Cause, you know, we're not going to participate in those two things, but we would sure like to hear progress on them.
I would like to bring up a subject, you don't have to answer it now, but since my background is corporate, it tends to be very detail-oriented and numbers-oriented.
Yeah.
So when we talk about things like, and you can think about this, when we talk about things like economic development and we ask for some kind of report, can we even ask? I mean, after listening to her, I'm not even sure we can ask for a report.
You can ask anything you'd like, Brian,
Well,
They just might
expect a
not.
in a
reason.
polite and respectful
I did that,
manner.
and I'm gonna follow the select board's thing and not yell at people. So what, and you don't have to answer it now, but I think one of the things we should talk about ultimately is if we're asking them what's going on, what that looks like. So we don't come in here every couple of weeks and ask the same questions and you give the same answers.
Sure.
But, you know, we're sitting there going, well, didn't change from last week, didn't change from the week before. I don't see it moving in a particular direction.
Right.
So in the spirit of cooperation and the spirit of, you know, like maybe as a sounding board for you and the finance director about what could be done, maybe we could talk about going forward in the future about what a review looks like or what a
Sure.
report looks like.
Yeah.
So you don't feel like, you know, we're sitting here and, you know, everybody's like, well, what'd you do? We haven't done anything. And the way I would think, looking at that would be something like specific steps on the way to something with due dates and responsibilities.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you don't have to answer now.
No, we can certainly look to put something together that meets mutual expectations and, you know, isn't too much of a lift, you know, again.
No.
We want to spend our time doing those things, not preparing the reports to show that we're doing it, but certainly provide something that can meet kind of the expectations to keep you informed of what's
So
going on.
for instance, I don't want to come in here and listen to somebody say to me, well, we've got this empty storefront list, which I heard like every year for 3 years. To me, that's not, I don't know what that is. I mean, you got empty storefront list. So anyhow,
Yeah, so
if
so
you
I
could
and I
think
think
of,
it can go further than that, right? And I think that's where maybe you're looking for the information.
I'm
And
looking for
so-
something that's leading somewhere,
Yeah,
that somebody is going to do something in a particular timeframe. And even if they don't do it in a particular timeframe, they come in and say, well, we ran into this problem, we're not budgeted. Next year, we would like to be budgeted for it, this is how we would use the money, blah, 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 blah.
yeah. Economic development's tricky in a sense that, not to get too much into the weeds, but, you know, it's privately owned, right? And so you take empty storefronts, for example. The idea is we don't want empty storefronts, we want to bring in businesses. We can do anything, we can do everything, but let's say you have an owner who isn't around here and doesn't care, right? We can meet with that owner. So what can we do to help you? And in this, I'm thinking of a specific example here, where they've just said, we don't care.
Oh, well, that's fine, then
right?
I would
And
like
so-
somebody to
so
get
we can
back to
certainly-
me.
Yeah, and we can certainly share those things where, you know, in an example like that, I'm not gonna be able to be specific and give you exactly
no,
where,
but-
but I can show you some steps of things that are getting done
Here's how I would
in
like to see
progress.
something like done is, okay, Joe Blow, which you can't tell us who it is, we offered him this package or whatever he had, and Joe said he wasn't interested. Or Joe said, I would be interested if you did this, or I would be interested if you did that. Things, you know, things of that nature, you know, we talk about how much it costs to put a kid through school here on a per capita basis.
Right,
And even though it's not directly, you don't see the thing directly related to it, but our housing policy impacts that. So going forward, we should be looking at more empty nester type things with, that put more in than they take out of the budget. So things like
And that's,
that.
and I get that, and then we, you know, we're bound by state law.
No, I get it.
And so it becomes a challenge where, and then you also, you know, for instance, we have a planning board. Well, the planning board, that might not be their goal, right, for those types of things. So, and so in my position and Gary's position, we're a lot of times dealing with competing interests even within the town. So it can be a challenge. But we can
So I
certainly
would-
make sure that.
So in that case, I would like to have somebody come back to me and say, you know, just that, do you have any competing interests or whatever the right word may be? So to fix that, we're gonna have something or some sort of discussion going forward to see if we can maybe not agree all the points, but get enough points agreed to move forward on some of these things. Not hearing the same thing year and year, over and over again. With
I
no-
agree. Yeah, I think, you know, maybe let's start with just trying to provide better information, because I do think a lot of these things are ongoing. It just isn't necessarily being communicated in the right ways, because there can, you know, grants is a good example. You heard that departments have said, look, there's more we could do. I don't doubt that. One of the things that, and Chris is, you know, going to give this update on the 28th, we have more capacity to apply for grants. I have no doubt about that. Can we take on more internally without any sort of consultants or staff? Yeah, I'm confident on that. Can our departments take on the projects, though, that go with those grants? And that's the biggest issue that we have.
Then somebody should be making those two statements that you prefaced your last one for, is to say, because one of the things that I brought up a number of times is that people talk about how employees need more education. But when then you look at a budget and there's no education in
Right.
the budget.
Well, a
So-
lot of it's not even education, it's more, it falls within their wheelhouse. So DPW is a good example. There may be opportunities for us to get grants for DPW, and if, they're very specific, the grants now, right? So maybe there's some municipal vulnerability preparedness, and we can do some, you know, green culverts or things of that nature. But there's a timeline, right, with a grant. So if we get a grant, we have to execute the project, let's say, within a year. And a lot of times when we had these conversations with the department head, can you take on that additional project right now? We can handle the grant aspect of it, you know, we can assist in applying. It's certainly still a heavy lift for the department head, because they have to prepare documents, they have to prepare things that are within their wheelhouse. But okay, we do that, we get to the grant, we get awarded the grant, we can handle the reporting, right, the financial reporting, those types of things within my office, but who's actually overseeing the project itself? And that's where the capacity issues really come. And because you hear it from all your departments when you met with them, they're straight out, right? That's what they're telling you, and they already have things planned, or they should have things planned for the year. Can we throw on a $2 million project that's going to require a lot of oversight from the department? In some cases, maybe we can, but in some we can't. So we'll iron through all these things and get that information, but that's where I see more of the roadblock.
The way you move, in my opinion, the way you move, not you, but the
Yeah, I know
town
what you mean,
moves
yeah.
forward is, in a situation like you just said, is okay, we got the grant writing administration or whatever,
Sure.
and we've got the tracking administration, whatever, but we're missing the management of the grant.
Mm-hmm.
So in the past, I mean, you hear the same thing. So my question would then be, well, what are you doing with say, pick one department, get them the capacity to execute grants? Because if, you know, you just 2 million off the top of your head, but that's not chump change in
No.
a budget of 112
No,
million
absolutely.
bucks. So when I'm talking about this sort of stuff, I would like to see movement forward and not have to ask the same question every year and get puzzled looks. As an every-
Oh, sorry, Cody.
No.
I think we saw this through Opera when we started applying for those grants. A lot of communities in Massachusetts had the opportunity to apply for much more money than that they were offered, and they just couldn't, because they couldn't execute the grant to the extent, and then having a time frame on top of it too. A lot of these grants have deadlines, so if you don't act on it, that money's just going to another community. And then the reluctancy of that funding source to give to another, back to like Dartmouth, you know, now you're gonna be put in the 20th place instead of the 3rd place, so it's a tricky process.
No, I understand that.
There's ways around it, I'm not making excuses.
But you got to, process is the answer.
Yeah.
when Melissa was talking, I was thinking, there was talk at one point with the select board that they were gonna have departments come in and give like a quarterly report or a semi-annual report. This is where we are, this is what we've done. And that's the kind of information that, because I watch the select board meetings, sometimes I even go if I'm looking for something to do. And you can learn some of that information just from something like that. But when there's a vacuum of information, it does make you think, what the heck is going on here?
I agree, and I think it's an issue townwide, and that's really one of my main goals here over the next 6 months, is to get rid of that kind of vacuum mentality. And are we gonna be able to have departments in to every board or committee and give these updates? No, but let's start with just getting the information out there and getting them to the select board, and then, I view it as really, it's my job to make sure that the information is getting out to everybody at that point. And so I'm hopeful that you see that within the next 6 months.
That's
things
great.
be
I
a lot
welcome
better.
that, because I think that's the part that's been missing, the execution.
Yeah.
And then discussion and rejiggering the course so
Yeah.
they can actually move forward.
Yeah, we always need to readjust, but we need to evaluate during that process so we know to readjust. And so I think that's, those are things that we're absolutely going to be working on.
Well, like, for instance, we're talking about economic development, and, Brian's saying, well, I don't see a lot of progress. Well, you, in fact, Cody, perhaps could set some milestones. Say we had, 100 storefronts that were unoccupied. And we're saying, well, we have a goal maybe at the end of, say, fiscal, 2026, that we're going to have, say, 75. And then, as time goes on, we can meet this milestone, and this is the reason why we didn't meet this milestone,
I'd agree with you, but it's not that easy for economic development.
Well-
I was just gonna say,
It's-
how could you
we
possibly
can't-
control that?
We can't,
Well,
so
you
for
can't
instance.
control it, but you can set milestones. You
One
can
of
say
the only
why.
things
Set
that we
milestones.
can
That's
do to attract, say, a business beyond kind of the normal things would be TIFs, right, tax incremental financing.
Right.
That's something that has to go to town meeting, right?
Right.
We can't just, and then we also don't want to just throw those out there, because we don't want to make that the norm. And then you say to the businesses that haven't had that opportunity, well, why shouldn't they get one? So to give you, this is when I was here before, we had a very successful business in town. They were already in town, and they approached us about, well, we want to do a TIF. We're going to do a little bit of a remodel, we want a TIF. And we said, well, why would we give you a TIF? Bless you. You're already successful in town. You're doing the remodel no matter what. You didn't say you're going to expand operations and add 300 jobs. To you, why wouldn't we have to give it to everybody else? And then is that productive? Because then is our cost of services actually, are we outpacing what their actual cost is? So,
Somebody could then say, well, sayonara, I'm going someplace else, and give me a tip.
That's why I was really happy to see that the building department, not the building, the DPW turned down the request
yes.
for a decrease in the sewer connection for
Yeah,
that project on the
at
south
that
side.
place on
because
Dartmouth.
That's exactly what happened. That was the concern that I had when the veterans
Right.
home came in and asked for a waiver.
It's valid.
Yeah, there are a lot of communities that engage in the TIF program. I believe we also brought in Target at the time too with a TIF. But you've got to be cautious, because the impression is, right, you're letting one organization in, why not me?
No, I get
And
that,
that's
but
kind of what-
you could solve that by putting in rules about revenue generation or number of employees or whatever. And this
Yeah.
stuff is not new to Massachusetts. I'm sure
of course
other
not,
towns
no.
have programs.
One of the things, though, look at New Bedford's commercial tax rate and look at Dartmouth's. It's about half. Our commercial tax rate is about half. And so while we absolutely want to do everything we can above and beyond, if someone's looking at us geographically, they're looking at the geographic area likely, right? They're not going to leave us and then go to the North Shore, most likely, maybe, but most likely they're looking at this area. So we don't want to hurt ourselves beyond than we need to and create a worse situation. So I agree with the idea of metrics and coming up with goals. Economic development is just one that's tricky. Grants a little easier. We can track the data, we can see the grants, we can see the dollar amount, we can see success rate, right? We can see those things. Economic development's a little bit trickier because.
Well, you may not have the staff in town to do it either, so you may have to go to the outside with a
And that's
consultant.
one of the other things, we do not have a very strong Chamber of Commerce that represents
have-
Dartmouth.
I mean,
We don't have a very strong what?
Chamber of Commerce.
well, not, because it's Bristol County, and you've got 19 other towns that are competing for their services.
And, but again, that's something I think we can do is Dartmouth going to be the priority for the South Shore,
No,
South Coast
no.
Chamber? No, but can we work to make sure that we're a little bit more, of a priority? Yeah, and those are the types of things that I think we need to do, and try to do some direct outreach.
Then I would ask, well, what are you doing above and beyond that?
Well, let's start somewhere, right?
Well, I'd be happy to hear, somebody come in and say to me, I don't know how you influence somebody on the Chamber of Commerce. I probably do, but I won't say it.
Brian, I think we could talk about this for another
I know,
hour.
so I'm just
and
saying.
we're not going to
Well,
solve
let me
it.
just say, what I
Terry?
originally said was some sort of procedure or operating.
Norms of collaboration.
What?
The first thing that I think is of the topics, grants, town use of consultants, and escalating legal costs, we could ask for a report. We could ask for like the past 3 years of costs in those areas, and then we can look at that and see what we think, right? Is that an easy thing, Gary, or am I making that up?
On which ones?
Grants, escalating legal costs, and use of consultants. Not the public schools, because the public schools, it's a different,
Right.
Yeah, those are
town.
typically separate GL accounts we can
Consultants
run.
might be a little, because
Yeah,
consultants in various departments, but we could pull something
Yeah,
together.
and we'd have to see if we're using the same
It's- 'cause
org for consulting, I think. it
So
might- it might
we
be
are-
on that.
Brian,
We can look
please.
at it.
We can, yeah.
but that might be a
We
way
are
to.
getting an update at the end of July on grants.
Yeah, so, and that's, you mentioned better communication, collaboration with the select board. That's one of my main priorities here too, is to create that. So, Gary had mentioned the audit, and that's when I brought up, okay, I know there's been a desire for this grants update. Let's do it at that meeting, because I know
Yeah,
you've had
that'd be
some
a good
interest in
meeting.
that. And so that'll be helpful to get that information out to you as well. And I really would like to continue those regularly,
Yes.
those select board meetings, those joint meetings.
What's a realistic timeline for us to circle back to ask about economic development? Is it 4 to 6 months?
No, I
We're
think,
not
I think
expecting
at
a
a
weekly
September meeting,
report.
I can give you an idea of these. I don't know if I'm going to be able to give you a comprehensive report like maybe we eventually want to get to, but my goal in September would be able to give you at least, these are the things that we're working toward. And then maybe, within a couple months from there, we can give you some sort of report with some milestones and metrics on it.
Perfect. Can we start at the top of the list now?
Yeah.
So Carrie,
Oh,
you were working on this, right?
I think so. Yeah, we'll go, yeah.
Where do you stand with that?
Yeah, I haven't made much progress on this, but I will continue to work on it. I will collaborate with, I forgot her name. I can't remember her name. Gary, what was our communications person's name again?
Oh, she's,
Is she gone?
yeah, she's,
Can you explain this one to me, just so I have a
I
better
think
understanding?
it was just trying to communicate with, not just the select board, but with town, with people in town. So, more of what we were doing as a finance committee. I think, oftentimes, people don't even know when our meetings are. There is actually, on our website, you can subscribe and you can get alerts. I get them from the library, but I was looking into how we could have the same thing happen for a finance committee, but I didn't really get very far on that, so I dropped the ball. But I will work
I'm
on
not
it.
sure it works either, because I've actually signed up for many boards and I never hear anything, so I might
I
be
get
doing
it from the
something wrong.
library.
Okay.
That was the only
Maybe
one.
I'll sit down with you at some point.
Yeah.
I haven't signed up for any.
Yeah, probably.
they have to check the boxes.
We'll circle back to that.
They have to do that every time they send an agenda.
Yeah, it's on the website, like you go on the website and
Yeah,
then it's
yeah.
like you can sign up for text alerts or sign up for emails
I
with
think
updates.
it's part, what Gary was just saying, is I think it's the way that things get posted. You basically have to select if it gets included in those alerts or not.
Yeah.
So, but we could certainly look at.
Yeah, we have to allow that, so that's just, you're looking for that,
Yeah.
then you can go in now, get the alert, so, something that we have to do internally, so we can talk to Chad.
Yeah.
I did discover the other day, because I asked Gary, if you click on the contact the finance committee, then it goes to Gary.
Oh,
Many
that's
years.
good.
Certain
I don't-
Gary has
yeah, I
been
don't get many.
flooded with emails.
Not many.
Yeah. I mean,
On
realistically,
occasion, I'll get them.
people would have to subscribe to it, and, people probably won't, but just looking at different ways of reaching out to the community so that they can just be updated and,
Yeah, no, that's a good
You
point.
know, I mean-
We're evaluating the communications position right now, as
Okay.
Magnolia has left. One of the things, once that's filled again, is I'd like to create a monthly newsletter of everything going
Oh,
on in
lovely.
town, and we could include the finance division, and I think
Yeah.
Gary really handles that, but then part of that could be a quick update from the finance committee, right?
Yeah,
This
no,
is
that's-
in
that's
those
great.
things. So,
Yeah.
like I said, we have a lot of plans with kind of communication, so it's not gonna happen next
Perfect.
month, but that is on the, that
we
is
can
the
check
goal.
that box off now. We can update the.
Cody, no.
Yeah, actually, can we just write Cody on most of these boxes? Cody and Gary, working on it.
No.
I'm just kidding.
No, I'm kidding. I don't think the item number 2 there, I'm not sure that has to stay anymore at this
No,
point.
I
Plus
think
from,
We just received the membership renewal. We just paid that for the committee.
okay.
So you
right.
sh-
I mean,
if
I
you're
know
getting-
we're members,
it'll
we all
continue,
know
yeah.
we can go to webinars.
Yes.
Melissa mentioned that, if there's a cost associated with going to a meeting, that it could be covered, I gather, from.
Yeah, we
I
also
don't know,
have the
somebody's
ability
budget.
in our budget, finance
Okay.
department's budget to cover a meeting. I know we talked about setting a liaison to the MMA, one point person.
Right.
That's in January, so.
We said 2. Was I missing?
I don't know, well, Gary goes, right?
I go, but I
Gary
don't know
goes.
if there was a
But-
need for 2 members. I mean,
I don't-
well, we can see
Oh,
at the time.
Because I've
He said
attended, in my planning board tenure, many MMA
Conferences?
conferences. And there was always at least 2. And it makes it much more enjoyable when
You don't
you're
wanna
with
get
an
together with
associate
Gary
or
and
a
I?
coworker, even though, we would split up and, that person would go to this side, but at night you get together and it's not because I'm looking to go, 'cause, I've done that. I want other people to experience that. And if no one goes, I'll fill the slot, but, I'm hoping other members will attend the MMA conference because it's some great networking goes on up there, and you can learn a lot if you're interested in attending some of these seminars and just talking with other folks,
Doesn't sound like we have to make a decision too soon.
No,
I mean,
no,
what,
just
you said
January.
it's January, right?
Yeah.
So at what point do you really have to make a decision about who goes?
November, December.
Yeah, I think
Wanna know.
mid-December you have to register by,
Okay,
so, plenty of time.
all right, so.
They have an annual meeting as well, the Association of Finance Committees.
Yes.
And I've heard very good things about that, and that's one you all, could go to, and it's relatively inexpensive, $50 a person or something, and you can submit to the town and we'll gladly pay it.
Is that a one-day event?
It is, yeah, usually it's on a weekend, and it's like a 9 to 4, or something along those lines.
Check that out. All right. Scooting down to long-term capital, I just simply put in there, and I'm sure you all know this, there's a survey online that you can answer, it's a couple pages at the most, about prioritizing our long-range capital items. I hope you've all participated in this at this point. If not, please click on it and answer. Answer the questions. And we also heard this at town meeting, that in September, there's going to be public workshops to, I gather, give us the results of the long-range survey.
And to explain how the group came up with the recommendation into, what is that? Does anybody know?
I have no idea.
It thinks it's 10 o'clock.
Yeah, the clock's a little off.
And to answer questions that people might have, but there's gonna need to be more work. There's a housing survey out there also right now.
Oh, that's true,
from the
yeah.
Planning board that I forgot about.
Those meetings are open, so the September meetings are open to the public.
Yeah, they'll be announced, I'm sure, and plenty, I think the dates were already announced, weren't
They
they,
were,
Terry?
yeah, I don't have them
I
off the
seem
top
to
of my
recall
head,
that from
but.
town meeting, so you can put it in your calendar. And they set it up, I believe, so it's in different parts of town, am I remember that correctly? So they
Right,
try to get
different locations,
different
yeah.
folks to come for the different topics. Skip over revenue generation for the moment. What's going on with the handbook, Terry?
Well, I'm probably gonna do some more work on it and maybe put some draft language, and then I'll send it to Melissa. And I'll send it to people here. How about if we shoot for September on that? Would that work for people? People okay with that?
Yes.
Okay.
Now, Terry, you're gonna be using the handbook that, are you creating a whole new handbook?
No, it's not a handbook, maybe a manual, or so we should call it something else, because it's
Yeah.
not intended to duplicate any of the AFTC or the handbook that Melissa just gave
association,
out.
yeah.
It's to talk about our internal practices, our, how we work together, the fact that we send out 2 letters a year, what's included in them, just to put on paper what we actually do. So it's
Kinda like a
nothing that would be
guideline.
repeated.
Like a guideline.
Yeah, I mean, I think norms for collaboration might be a way to include it. I don't know. I'll send it out, and it will be open to anybody's input, obviously.
Okay.
That'd be really good for new members,
Right.
because other than that, we sort of learned by just being.
Yep, and it's changed over time, so it would be
Yes.
good for us to agree on how we do things.
Yeah, right. So it's not going to be 178 pages.
It's not. It's probably going to be 10 at the most.
Good.
That'll work.
I believe, Terry, you mentioned this, right? The use of consultants, you were going to ask for reports. Is that one of the items you said?
They're going to think about how easy that would be, because I know that one of the issues is when people, they may not really be a consultant, but they're on a consultant contract, because that's kind of how their job is. That's not, we're looking for people who have, like, for example, the energy person.
Vendors.
That's a consultant, yeah, so I think that's what we could, because the issue, Cody, that came up was, would it make sense for the town to create a position as grant writer, and their salary come out of whatever grants they get? Some people do that. The problem with that is exactly what you said, that the project itself, the collection of data on the grant, that has to be done by the people doing the project, so I don't know how that would work out. I know in the school system, they just figure it out. They tell somebody they're gonna do this, and you're gonna do that. Yeah.
We can get the information, the data.
And the same thing goes for the last item on the list. I'm just skipping ahead briefly, the escalating legal costs.
Yeah.
Just get an idea of, not specific to cases, obviously,
Yeah,
but sort of how it's divvied out between, I know there's multiple attorneys.
Yeah, we could do a vendor breakdown, right?
Yeah.
Whatever
Yeah.
makes sense.
Yeah, we've talked about, there's obviously some of the information, ongoing cases we can't discuss. but
Right, of course.
Just what the amounts are.
And we know that ideally, the budget for this year handles it. I know it was raised quite a
It's the
bit.
goal, yeah.
The state of the town thing, we've been talking about that for a very long time. We think that there needs to be some, Westport does a nice job with their presentation. Could probably talk to,
I don't know, does Gary do that? Do you do that for
I used to as
Westport?
the finance committee chair, but I'm not the chair anymore.
Right.
So, finance committee chair would be the one that, well, in Westport, that's who does it.
We left this on the list because of the fact that we just wanted to be part of town meeting going forward. And this is a heads up with a lot of notice.
and we try to do that communication letter. And again, if you have feedback on that, let us know.
Yeah,
But I think we feel like with the capital projects coming up, with the fact that we're already, like Westport, in a structural deficit pretty much, we don't bring in enough money to cover our expenses, and people are trying to make do. It would be important for people to know that, maybe even more than town meeting members, but to start with town meeting members.
And the only one left is the reserve fund, is that correct? Yes. So, we could put that on next week's agenda. Do we want to just address that then? Gary, you okay with? going-
I'm not sure what the questions,
Well, it comes down to understanding everything there is to know about the reserve fund and maybe knowing the history of how we have spent it, I don't know, a couple of years.
so in the last 5 years, typically, there's been about $510,000 budgeted in that account. There's been minimal expenses, as you know, that can only be used for certain items for the budget, unforeseen. As I mentioned at the last meeting, I think the committee may want to address what some kind of policy on what is unforeseen. We have something in writing. Some people may think that X is unforeseen when it isn't. There's clear definition under the law on what is allowed to be spent to the reserve fund. As I mentioned, like we used it for the library, the glass broke. We may be using it for something coming up, for the parks. So there are clear definitions. It's not for salaries, it's not to hire people, it's not any of that.
So would that be a matter of us reviewing that policy and practices document?
Yes,
Okay, so
Yes.
we could probably do that next week?
the next meeting.
Because I don't think it would take.
It's been circulated.
Permission to
Yeah.
speak.
Yes, sir.
I would like to know, so is that the town's reserve? So the
It's the
town,
town's reserve, the finance committee has the authority over it.
Yeah,
but if we were to say, just hypothetically, we were to say, no, you can't have the money, then what would happen?
We'd have to find another way, there would be a deficit in the budget for a particular, there potentially could be a deficit in any line item on the budget. We would then have to do a line item transfer at the end of the year if there are not enough funds to cover that expense with any department
well,
as we
And-
just did, we just did line item transfers.
And do we have the ability to actually spend that money independently?
No.
of- No.
Only
So
if it
it's-
falls
it's-
under.
It has to be
you
clear and
know,
specific.
Yeah, an expense that was unexpected, extraordinary.
Why wouldn't you have a line item for town reserve instead of putting it under the finance committee?
Can you read that?
Why wouldn't you have a line item that said town reserve? Why is it, I mean, we don't actually, what I'm hearing is we don't actually control it.
Well, you have the authority
Yeah, you
to
do.
spend out of it.
that's not true.
It can't be released unless you approve it.
Yeah. It's almost like the assessor's overlay account. The assessor's overlay account is only by the approval of the Board of Assessors. So there are certain line items in the budget that certain committees have control over. But there's a vetting process for that. It's not just, willy-nilly spending money out of it under the law.
So we have to have it, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, if by chance that ever happened, and where we objected to the reserve fund being, say, used, it would still come under scrutiny by the select board, and in other words, we'd have to present a reason why we wouldn't want
Well,
to
at
touch
the
the
end,
reserve fund.
if you played it out at the end of the fiscal year, let's say if you had a $500,000 budget and you overexpended that budget because of the line item that wasn't approved for the reserve fund, you'd have to this committee would have to vote then on a line item transfer, which then would have to also go to the select board for approval. Like we just did line item transfers.
Right, but what I'm saying is if it came under heavy scrutiny, there'd be protocols of, you have to answer to somebody, why did you not want to tamper, why did you not want to, dive into those reserve funds? From our perspective, it'd be scrutinized by somebody. We couldn't just say, well, you can't use a reserve fund.
The authority lies with the finance committee. I mean, that's the way the law is written.
Speak again.
It's,
Yeah, go ahead. Just
It-
don't
You know,
interrupt.
if it's overexpended on the budget,
Just don't
as
interrupt
I just
Gary.
gave the example, if you overexpend on the budget, the only other alternative is a line item transfer.
If the feast is that weekend,
Yeah.
I'll go to the following.
Which you also have to approve, right?
Yes, you approve, yeah.
So-
We just did a whole,
Right.
we did 9 of them.
So, did I hear you earlier say it might be useful to
I want you to be at the
define what can be financed
So
out
the
of that budget?
26th is the date.
What are the
that was
criteria?
Criteria.
Building, a malfunction in a building.
Okay, good.
So the state defines it as extraordinary or unforeseen expenditures. And that's,
Extraordinary, unforeseen. All right, so just, I don't know what the answer to this either, but I remember a couple of town meetings ago, somebody stood up and asked for $99,000 to fix the roof on one of the school buildings. And it was voted in town meeting that they could have the money. It would seem to me, they would know that the town, I don't remember the details, but they would know in their budget when they were preparing it that they had to do repairs to the roof. And
Should,
So
yeah.
therefore,
Well, without a clear and defined list.
that's what I'm saying. So I think that would be
It's
very.
interpretation at that
That would be
point.
very helpful, or some, I don't know, what Guy Silver, I wasn't there, but like his 800,000 that he wanted.
This
Was
was-
that like calling from different budget? or
It was
he
different, it was different departments. He
Sort of a
he was
flat cut
he was
across.
asking- So
everything.
I think my point would be to say is, I think it would be good to have some sort of definition of what constitutes.
Okay, can we move on, because we only have a few minutes, and I certainly don't want to go over. liaison reports, and actually, I'm just going to put Cody on the spot. Can you give an update on the reclassification and compensation study?
Sure. So they had the meetings with department heads and all of the departments last week, 6 meetings in total for all of the staff. The staff have until the end of this month to return their job questionnaires, basically, to their managers, and then they go to our human resources. Our human resources will then pass them along to the consultant. The consultant will begin reviewing those, and then they're having staff interviews in September.
Is this process similar to the last time?
It's a little more in-depth with the more on the department level staff and the managers to make sure that they're reviewing the job descriptions so they're accurate. So it's what you put into it, these studies, and so as a town, I think, Gary has really made sure that the departments are putting more into it, so we get more out of it this time.
Yeah, and then the last reclass that we had in 2018, 2019, there were no job descriptions. That's getting included in
I
this
do
one.
remember that.
That's another big piece of it.
And they're going to have some one-on-one interviews, is that correct?
In September, yeah. So they're going to interview at least one person in each position, but they will not turn anyone away if anyone wants to interview with them.
That should be interesting to hear the feedback on that. Does anybody else have a liaison report? Well, it's only been 1 week, but anyway.
No, just you already mentioned long-term capital, so, yeah,
Yeah.
nothing else to report on.
Council on Aging, they'll be probably reconvene their meetings in September.
Right, yeah, some of the town, they take their July off.
Yeah,
The
they have
library takes
vacations
July
coming
off
up,
from
yeah.
meetings, yeah.
So,
Yes.
Madam Chair, on the 24th,
24th?
Next Thursday.
Yep.
are we just having the one item, reserve fund?
Well, that's a question, because we don't have a lot to do on, well, Terry's not going to have any more on the FinCom handbook, obviously, you already asked for September, so.
Yeah. I'm actually trying to find some other town that has one, and I have not.
Oh, a smaller one?
Everywhere I go.
I have looked around too, honestly, because
If
sometimes I
you
like to
hear
see
of
what the others
anything,
are
let me
doing.
know, But I don't want to do the handbook with the
No.
policies and all that. It's really more kind of how we operate.
Yeah, I haven't seen one either. and
The
what
only- I mean, I'm only making a suggestion that maybe we wait till the 31st. That's also a Thursday.
That's up to, so Terry had taken the initiative to see who was available on certain dates, and I know that next week was one of them.
Yeah, it's July, is this still, we're still taping? Yeah, I don't want to, we can talk about it afterwards, I'll give the details, but yeah, a week from Saturday.
So hang on, we were looking at, I didn't know if people were available on the 31st.
For,
Rather than have a meeting next week, have it on the 31st.
oh, okay.
I'm all set, I can make it.
Everybody's checking their calendars.
Yep, I'm good. I can make, I can make it.
Is
Janine?
that a no, John? I'm sorry.
Yes, I'm not available.
Yeah, that's fine for me.
It's the feast.
Oh, my
So,
God.
So
Just
I will
bring
be-
us
so
one.
remember, the 28th,
Volunteering
Just bring
down.
us some
28th is
casserole.
the joint meeting.
Correct, yeah,
Yeah, and-
that's two.
And we're posting that, but that's, we're not, we won't have discussion, but we'll, I mean, it's just if members show up, so not in violation.
How about if we meet before the joint meeting?
But you could do that.
Oh, on that Monday? Yeah, it could be brief, honestly.
Yeah.
Yeah. What's everybody's availability prior to 6:30 on the 28th?
Yeah, right.
I mean, obviously, it would not be in this room, but,
Right. I mean, it could be next room over, or.
yeah, that's
or-
true, yeah,
3:15 or whatever,
Yeah.
we can find a room, I'm sure.
All right, so,
yeah.
so what do you want to do, July 28th instead? Is that what you want to do?
So I could post the meeting for, I could post the meeting
6.
early, and then.
Yeah,
come
what do you
right
think,
into
6
the-
o'clock, is that good?
So we're not going to meet on the 24th, we're going to meet instead before the 28th, great.
I mean, we don't have a lot to go over, really, so
Yeah.
maybe a half-hour meeting on the 28th
All right, so July 28th.
at 6 o'clock.
6 o'clock, change it, I had
Feast over?
6:30, so we're gonna meet
Do you have the audit firm come right in at 6?
and cancel the 24th.
Yes,
Only by the
yes.
middle of
Okay,
it.
good. That works out
Yeah.
better for me next week.
Works for me.
All right, good. Does somebody want to make a motion to approve the minutes of July 10th?
Can I just say,
Yes.
I'll make a motion, but then I want to ask a question.
Yes.
I have to abstain, I wasn't here.
Neither was I.
So was the edit, the
That's what
attendees? I noticed the attendees was wrong as on the first one, and then,
She had a name,
so that was the only edit.
Lisa, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Do we have a second on that motion?
Second.
Okay. Any discussion?
That was my question, so.
Okay. All in favor? Who abstained?
Brian.
Bill Bowles and
Brian.
Brian O'Hare abstained because they weren't here.
We weren't here.
Motion passes. That was your question, Terry? Any other items?
So, just lastly, the week of August 4th, I'll be sending out the memo to department heads for capital to prepare for the fall town meeting. And once we start getting that information back, we'll also start the process of certifying free cash. So once we get all that back, we'll start the meetings again for CIPC.
Okay.
Okay.
So do we anticipate not having any FinCom meetings in August? Is that correct?
I would say tentatively right now, no.
Okay, because I know your schedule
Maybe,
is...
maybe one at the tail end as we get into September, but I would say right now, there would be no need for a finance committee meeting in August.
Okay, good, vacation. Yay. Somebody want to make a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second, anyone?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Adjourned.
Okay,
So you
good
think
meeting.
taping is done?